What is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Pete.
And we are coming to you live from a couple of places on the internet. We're coming to you from Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Instagram, even everybody's favorite, LinkedIn. And I'll just mention for no reason that I'm still looking for a job. So any of you LinkedIn people, just hit me up. Hit me up right on the stream. We'll do an interview, a live interview right here.
Oh, wow.
For a job.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's good. That's not desperate at all.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to start the show.
Oh, thank you. Well, but here's the thing, though, is they want to hire me and they want to hire you because the big news that we're going to share right here at the top of the show is that Comic Book Club has been nominated this year for 2 podcast awards. Woo-hoo! The Podcasties, as nobody calls them. Comic Book Club, the show that you're watching or later listening to right now, has been nominated in the comedy category, and Comic Book Club News has been nominated in the arts category. The way that voting works, in case anybody's curious, is if people already registered to the site, they randomly send 25,000 of the people who registered an email, probably while we're taping this. They sent them out being like, hey, you can vote for the categories. So if you're one of those random email people, keep Comic Book Club and Comic Book Club News in mind. There you go. Voting's open until September 1st. And we'll mention it again, maybe. I guess we'll see.
I would think we would, probably.
I think we would. Congratulations, Pete. What are you doing? Are you taking the lady out to dinner tonight?
Oh, yeah. Me and the missus. You know it.
Pete's single, ladies. But he's nominated for a podcast
We're
award.
Starting the show with me like you going, I need a job, and then you're like, well, Pete's single. Like, what's happening right now?
On your Tinder profile, you're going to put nominated for a podcast award?
Oh, my God. That's like posing with a fish, right? People don't like that.
Well, anyway, thank you, everybody that helped us get this nomination. We appreciate it, and I guess we'll see what happens, but also congratulations to the rest of the nominees. Yeah. We've got a great guest for you this evening, though. Very excited to talk to him about this book from AHOY Comics, Ancestral Recall, which comes out tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Clark. Jordan, welcome.
Hey,
hello.
Welcome. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you guys? Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. I'm excited to have you on. Excited to see that you have the themed background from Ancestral Recall behind you. So good branding.
Yes.
Let's talk about this book. There's a lot of stuff going on in this book, and I say that very positively and very complimentarily because we got a chance to read through it. But I'm not sure how much of what happens you want to pitch. So let me turn it over to you. Give the pitch for the book, and then I'll kind of pick it up from there.
Absolutely, yeah. Ancestral Recall is a book that follows Melvin Waring, who is a reclusive and kind of eccentric painter. He's been living with his wife June in Oakland for the past, couple decades, and like very simple, easy life. But a couple of crazy things happen to him in quick succession. One, his wife is taken to the future by a sentient AI corporation, which is never something you want to happen. And he also is able to access and kind of tap into the knowledge and the skills of a number of historical Black figures, ranging from one of the greatest swordsmen of the 18th century to the inventor of the modern security system to a bunch of other people you meet along the way. And so there's a lot going on, like you said. I mean, it's a science fiction book, it's a comedy book, it's a romance, it's kind of a buddy comedy. So, and it's features a lot of actual history from a lot of actual historical figures. So it's I think it's a lot of fun, but it is something that I think if you're looking for something a little bit outside of the norm, or even unfortunately a book that I really love, Bitterroot, is coming to an end this week as well.
Amazing.
So if you're looking for something that kind of hits the same notes as Bitterroot, I would consider maybe checking us out.
Yeah, I agree. I do think this is really fun, and it does kind of have hints of Bitterroot, which is cool. But one of the main things I really love is, like, when you have a main character, you got to be, like, wanting to root for them and kind of
Yeah.
like pull for them. And you do such a good job setting this up and having us being on this guy's side. And he doesn't say a lot. Like, he's a man of few words, which is great.
Yeah.
And I also love the little scribble kind of swearing box you have in there, which is so cool. Can you talk a little bit about like what you wanted to get from a main character for us to kind of snap into or connect with?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Melvin he's an interesting person because he is not the typical protagonist in that he doesn't really want adventure, excitement, any of this stuff to happen to him in his life. And so he's kind of unwillingly dragged along into this adventure. But I think, like you said, some of the things that I really wanted to get across was, his relationship with his wife, and just kind of I think he hits on a lot of some of the anxiety that a lot of us are feeling today, just in terms of, the modern world as things continue to escalate in a number of ways, but, specifically regarding to things like technology or just feeling like you kind of are in touch or know what's going on around you. Like, he's somebody who's got a very rich inner life and has kind of created this safe world for himself. And, the story is about him kind of being pushed out into a lot of different places, specifically out into the world and having to kind of figure things out on his own. And so, like you said, he's not a man of a lot of words. I modeled him after Thelonious Monk, who is a very eccentric jazz pianist who, if you've ever seen an interview with Monk, like, his wife basically had to make him talk to people. He wasn't thrilled about doing that. And when he did talk, it was in kind of these short bursts and kind of grunts and grumbles and whatnot. So, I wanted to have him, feel like that externally when he's interacting with people, but for the reader, you're still able to get his kind of inner thoughts or the things that he's thinking about as he's moving through the world. So, I love Melvin, and I hope people love Melvin.
Yeah.
He is,
killed it. Just a couple grunts and I'm on his side. Like, really well done. I was like, I love this guy. I don't know him yet, but I'm rolling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you about, just because we're looking at them right now, there are 2 or 1.5 other characters who are palling along with him on his adventure. We got a young girl in the neighborhood who is helping him on his mission, and then she's got an AI-powered panda pet that is palling around as well. So what is their function of the story? Where did they come from? Did they come out of Melvin? Were they coming from another direction, another thematic point? What can we take away from them?
Yeah, I think Mirren and her pet Petunia are kind of like his. If you're thinking about it from a noir perspective, it's kind of like a His Girl Friday kind of character, where, like, again, Melvin on his own is not going to be able to do what needs to be done. He would probably just stay at home or like wander into an alley or something. And, Mirren is there to kind of help guide him. But is also, going on her own journey, because she, as we'll find out as the story goes along, has some of her own issues, going on in her life. And I think she looks up to Melvin in a lot of ways, but it's also like, for both of them, they're not great with other people. She is, as you'll see throughout, just the first issue, like, the first thing that comes to her mind is coming out of her mouth is constantly like this stream of consciousness, which obviously is not Melvin's favorite thing, hearing somebody speak at him constantly all the time. But, on the other end, like, he really appreciates, just kind of the energy that she brings and the earnestness that she brings. So they are an odd couple. And again, even Petunia, the AI panda, we'll kind of see where that plays into it. That was a pure invention of Adigan Elhan, the artist. Like, I hadn't put that in the script, but he was like, what if she had this? And I was like, let's do it. Like, this, we can play with this in so many different ways. So hopefully awesome. Petunia is a fan favorite as well.
I do want to get back to a question specifically about the book, but before I forget, I just wanted to mention every week on the show, we have a professional chef down in New Orleans named Brett Macris. He runs a restaurant called Shift. His nickname is Stray Bullet. Restaurant called Shift, and he either curates or creates a cocktail for us based on the guest, and this week he created one for you, the Melvin Mythic Ritual. which
Oh,
is
Nice.
inspired by a little bit of calling on ancestors and giving some ancestral ingredients. We got a dark rum, a
okay.
mezcal, a hibiscus syrup, ginger liqueur, lemon juice, lemon peel, and orange bitters. And that sounds
Nice.
delicious and refreshing
Yeah.
for summer as well, I would say.
Might have to try that tomorrow to celebrate the book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you should. Yeah.
There you go. Well, let's get back to talking about the book. I was curious about your influences because certainly with the unstuck in time nature, my mind immediately went to Billy Pilgrim, Slaughterhouse Five. But you've also got through the powers thing. There was something that like I couldn't quite put my finger on, but I started thinking about like Taskmaster a little bit, Echo a little bit, things
Mm,
like that. Not exactly right, but what were you? What was your ancestral recall for the
yeah,
influences for the book?
absolutely. Well, so do I think I have it here. Like I'm a huge Vonnegut fan. He is one
Oh,
of
look
my
at
favorite
Yeah.
that.
authors. And definitely was something that I was trying to channel just because I feel like as a writer, one of the things that I really love about his work is it feels like you just wandered into a bar and sat down and this guy's telling you the craziest story ever. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And like that's just like the writing is so fluid, but also like it's not, I don't want to say not literary, but like it's not flowery prose. It's like very
Sure.
straightforward, very simple sentences. And I wanted the book to kind of have that feel to it. So I'm always grateful when people kind of pick up on that because I was just like, yeah, like obviously can't be unstuck in time, but maybe kind of unmoored from time or,
Mhm.
something of the sort. And, even with the powers, I kind of think about it almost like Dial H, where it's like, you
Oh,
don't
yeah.
really know what you're going to get, but you're going to get the thing you need when you need it. And so
Mhm.
for him, a lot of the times, Melvin has his own, skills and things that he's picked up throughout his life. But, when are you going to need to fence androids in the alley? When are you going to need to, hack into a security system or do a lot of these other things? So having the ability to kind of call upon, these different historical figures, which was something that was really fun in writing the book because it was a chance for me to do a bit of research, but also kind of
Yeah.
find the right match of like, here's what he needs to do, and who's somebody that we can look to who has either done that, like was a fencer, was a fighter, or like was in a related field that he can call to. So I think for me, a lot of the influences were just actual literal history, but even like from a fiction standpoint, definitely Vonnegut, definitely, pulling on. I'm a huge Taskmaster fan as well, so like the ability to kind of pull
Nice.
what you need when you need it. There's a couple of different heroes who have those skills too.
Uh,
That's awesome.
I want to talk a little bit more about the historical thing. Sorry, I'm trying to bring it up so I don't get it wrong
Yeah.
here, but I'm not doing it quickly enough. Here we go. So you have one of the first things, and this is a spoiler for the book if anybody doesn't want to know, but the first historical figure he calls on is Samuel Marlowe, who described as the first black private eye in Los Angeles, inspiration for Philip Marlowe. And that's something that plays out, I think, through all of the different figures that you call upon here, that there's a bit of a reframing going on. You're taking people
Mm.
that have been inspired throughout fiction, throughout history, but maybe not seen in the same way. So is that kind of along the right track that you were trying to provide that reframing?
Absolutely. Well, I think part of the thing that was very interesting to me, just even in terms of like, for example, Samuel Marlowe was what I was saying before, looking for, okay, he needs to find a detective. Like,
Mm-hmm.
who are some of the famous, black detectives throughout history? And when his name came up, like I was like, what a strange coincidence that he's named after one of the most famous, fictional detectives of all time. And then when you kind of look into it, you're like, oh, and it's not just Philip Marlowe, but it's Sam Spade as well. Like they took
Mm-hmm.
both of his names and just chopped off either end of it and then made a new character for it. But he was there in Los Angeles, speaking with, crime noir authors and even just thinking about what that would be like to be a black detective in the 1920s 1930s in Los Angeles, in a place where you're doing all the same things that these detectives are doing. You're looking for
Mm-hmm.
somebody's missing wife, you're looking for is my husband cheating on me, is this person stealing money from me, but you have to go into these places at somewhat of a disadvantage, obviously because of, your race, but also maybe at somewhat of an advantage because maybe people aren't really paying attention to you as you're kind of walking around and, trying to snoop into stuff. So that's a book that I would love to read on its own, someone
Yeah.
else about what his adventures were like. But yeah, I do think there's a lot of that throughout the series where you'll find historical figures who were either inspirations for other things that you may know, or who were parts of things that you were like, oh, I didn't even know this person was involved in this particular movement, involved in creating this particular invention. So I really wanted to help kind of refocus some people's attention or conversations around certain things to particular figures, but also kind of help people have a touchstone to do research of their own. So when they say, "Oh, well, who is this person? I'd like to know more about them,"
Yeah.
help have kind of a base for people to jump off of.
That's
And I
awesome.
love that, by the way. I thought that was a great aspect of the book. We're talking here about the detective, but also to keep spoiling a little bit, but we have a character show up immediately after that who is a Haitian swordman. And I think in another book, it might have been like Zorro, or
Yeah.
something like that. But instead, you're getting this actual historical figure that may have at least part inspired those fictional stories. And I think that makes it more interesting. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
what does it say? What does it say about Melvin? Like Melvin, which we haven't really talked about too much, is a frustrated artist. So what
Yeah.
does it say about Melvin that he is calling on those characters, or is that something we're gonna have to wait and see throughout the series?
I think as the series goes on, at first, like anybody, if you suddenly discovered you had the ability to do something like this, it's kind of startling. I mean, you see him, initially when he comes out of his somewhat fugue state in the beginning, he's kind of just totally out of it and like in another part of the city and like doesn't know what's going on. But as the series goes on, I think, for me, it is something that I do think about a lot in terms of like how the people who came before me kind of paved the way, even in the comic space, thinking about like a Dwayne McDuffie, and people who kind of did so much in terms of laying the groundwork for somebody like me to come along and make a comic, make a book, in this way, and even extrapolating it further back, a lot of people either in my own actual family or just throughout history who kind of did certain things that have allowed me to be in the space that I'm in now. And so for Melvin, he's somebody who draws upon African American history in his work and has a knowledge base of it. But even for him, it's kind of an eye-opening journey where he's getting in touch with people that again maybe he wasn't fully aware of, or even people that he looked up to who were some of his heroes when he was a kid, and now he's having this face-to-face interaction with them and kind of working his way through what they meant to him and how he can carry the lessons he learned from them forward, not only in this journey but just in his life in general.
Wow. One of the things, we talked about him channeling and using his power. I'd love to kind of get a little behind the scenes of like how you kind of work that out with the artist of like how it's going to look, because it is such a powerful, cool kind of panel. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, Adigan is incredible. We were
Agreed.
fortunate. Yeah, we were fortunate to be a part of the Milestone Initiative program at DC Comics that happened back in 2020. And as soon as I saw his work there, I was like, man, I hope I get to work with that guy one day. And so, fortunately that worked out. And one of the things that I really enjoy about just the creative back and forth between us is like Adigan is somebody who I think is looking for a challenge, like coming off of some of the stuff that he had been doing with DC. He had been working on Poison Ivy. And, as we came to this book, we were kind of talking about, well, what are some of the things you want to draw? What do you want to do? And he was, saying, I've been doing a lot of superhero stuff and I kind of want to do something a bit more loose, a bit more cartoony, a bit more flexible. And so we talked out, some of just what you were saying, like, well, how is this going to look on the page? What are some of the things we can do to kind of make this more unique and kind of pop? And so, some of the things that you see is, stuff that I wrote into the script just in terms of like um, some of the visual elements of it. Like you could sometimes see the historical figure kind of like floating above them or, attached to him. Other things were just all his skill, in terms of like the layouts and the paneling. He's very he's very interested in just finding different ways to communicate the action. I think as you'll see throughout the series, there's some incredible double page splashes where I was just kind of like, here's what's happening, and not necessarily like, here's how you should draw it, but just like describing what's going on. And then I got them back and I was like, man, like that's crazy. Like you added not even just so much extra detail to it, but just like the fluidity of it, and the way that he kind of takes your eye across the page is pretty great. So I think it's a blessing to be able to work with somebody like that who once you kind of establish the rhythm back and forth between each other, it's kind of like I don't have to say too much because he kind of knows where my mind is going, but I'm also giving him the space to explore and experiment and do what he does. So,
well, congrats. It's awesome.
It is an awesome book. Before we start to wrap up here, though, I think you have a couple of other projects going on. Anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, a couple of things that I'm working on, pitching to some other companies. So, hopefully, fingers crossed for me that some of those things come through. I'm also working on just on my own, preparing to kickstart a couple of projects. One is called A Black Person's Guide to Time Travel, which is kind of like the green book of time travel. Because I think it's kind of in conversation with this book. That's obviously, but I think one of the tropes is always like for a lot of different minorities, it's like, well, how far back could you go in time, right? Like if you went back to the 1920s or you went back to the 1800s or these different periods of time. But not only were Black people doing incredible things throughout history, but like we can go way back, and kind of explore a lot of different things. And not only that, but just throughout the diaspora, right? Like in the UK, in Asia, in South America, and all these different places. Like I'm trying to remember his name exactly, but there was a Black Spanish explorer that came over from Spain, and like was one of the first Black people in the country and like helped navigate on foot from Florida to like Texas, this group of Spaniards, and then like kind of disappeared. They picked him up later in like Mexico, maybe like a decade after that. But like a lot of that stuff to me is really interesting, and I think there's a lot of different stories. So I have a couple of people signed up for that so far, and we'll see where we get that. And then I'm also part of the Stardust anthology that's coming out later this year, which had like Mike Allred and Jesse Lonergan and like a couple of other really talented people. Stardust was a character from like the early comic days, like 1930s, golden age, who was like one of the first superheroes and was just like a weird dude, like did weird stuff. Like most of the comics ended with him like murdering the villains in very crazy ways with crazy powers. And so like it was fun to kind of do that. Van Jensen put that together, and so I believe that's coming out in the fall. So those are the two things to plug for me.
Awesome. Jordan, that's fantastic. Also, of course, Ancestral Recall. Everybody should check that out tomorrow. Congrats on the book, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Appreciate it. Check it out. All your comic book shops tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been great.
All right. Thanks, Jordan. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, there we go. Like I just said, Ancestral Recall from AHOY Comics. That's in stores tomorrow. It is great.
Yes,
Do not
it
miss
is.
it. Pick it up.
We'll be talking about it in the stack.
Maybe. Who even knows?
Who maybe knows, maybe.
Who maybe knows, maybe not. And now it is time for our... This is why we're Podcast Awards nominated, Pete.
Oh, they're right here. Yeah.
And now it is time for our next section, which is my favorite section because you all make it up. It is your audience questions. And for audience questions, all you got to do is drop a question in the comments.
Here we go. Question number one. Where is Justin? Good question.
They always want to know.
He's chasing money around. You know what I mean? He got a better offer. He's Hollywood Justin, and sometimes he's got to take those big gigs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, nobody did actually ask that. Usually somebody does ask that, but you are answering honestly. He did get a paying gig tonight that he had to take. We miss him, but we will see him very soon. And we have a lot of other podcasts that are going up, so you'll get your fill of Justin.
Yeah, there won't be any lack of Justin.
So we do have a hot take here on Twitch that I haven't read all of, so if it goes south, my apologies, but why don't we bring it up? This is from Dark Sage 9117 says, honest take, I despise the MCU. I feel Disney watered down the characters in the MCU because they're afraid casual fans would hate the comic book versions of, say, Deadpool, Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, and others. I meant for Doomsday, I want comic book Doom, and if you have to change a few things about him to appeal to casuals, then go ahead. Interesting. What's your take on this take?
Casuals. Well, I mean,
I like to call them normies just
normies,
for
non-nerds. I think it's definitely something when this first happened, that was the initial fear. It was like, oh God, they're going to Disneyfy everything, and it's going to all suck now. You know what I mean? That was a real.
Well, just to add on, she adds on another comment here saying, personally, as a comic book fan, I want to see the characters of the comics, how they were with new stories or ideas in the movie. It's interesting to hear this because I hear what you were saying, Pete. I feel like I've talked about on the show before that I definitely had a mental change I needed to go through at a certain point a couple of years ago, just personally, because I was like confused about the idea that there were MCU fans who did not care about the comic books. Like, they were into the movies, they have no interest in going into a comic book store, when the hope always was, oh, they see the movie and then they walk over to Midtown Comics from the Times Square Theater and they start buying Avengers comic books. And that mostly hasn't happened. The one place that definitely has happened, shockingly, is Superman apparently is driving foot traffic to comic book stores. That's something that I think has popped up a lot with James Gunn's DCU in general, from like, wow. He clearly has a lot of coordination with the comic book arm, but he put out, when he first got the job, a reading list of, hey, here's some stuff I'm reading for our new DCU. Not saying it's based on this, but this is what I'm interested in. And people started picking up those books and presumably reading them. So that's pretty cool. That's a little bit of a side topic. I mean,
it's just kind of insane to think about this idea of like, you seeing a Superman movie and going, wait, there's comics about this? And then, like...
But it's true. Like, even now, years into the comic book movie boom, still talk to people who are like, I legitimately do not know how to read a comic. Like, they don't know how to read through the page, where the panels are going. It's crazy to think, because we've been doing it in our entire lives, but it is a skill that people... find very alarming to get into. So that's a barrier to doing that, versus they know how to watch a movie, so they watch a movie. So this is not about this. This is like a side topic to this, to address specifically what Dark Sage is saying. I hear what you're saying, because as comic book fans, like, that's the medium we love. But I think comic books and movies are two entirely different things. They can be interrelated. They can be interrelated. They can give ideas back and forth, but the way that you execute the format of a movie is inherently different from a comic book, which is why when they try to say, like, this is the most comic booky movie of all time, it doesn't really work. It's janky because it was meant for one format and one form of storytelling and not another. So what I think laudably the MCU did, particularly in the initial first phase or so, is figured out a way to make these stories work on screen so that they could work for a general audience, which I don't know necessarily about watered down, but came at it very differently. Like, very famously, I think the thing that gets called out all the time is people saying, how is Thor going to work with Iron Man, who's a science-based character? And then Thor has that whole exchange where he's like, what you think of as magic is actually science to us. And it's like, everybody, as soon as you hear that, you're like, oh, I get it. Oh, I understand what's happening. And that's, I think, been true through the best of the MCU, is they've figured out how to make these things work for movies. So I hear what you're saying, but I don't think taking a comic book page or taking a comic character exactly how they are in the comics and putting them up on screen would feel right in the way that you think it would feel right, because the way that they feel right is on the comic book page. Pete? over to you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You kind of talked yourself into a circle a little bit there, but my head kind of exploded at the end of that sentence. But I definitely understand I like them the way that they are. So if you're going to take them here and put them there, keep them how they are so we can enjoy them there. You know what I mean?
Well, but you famously are also somebody who's like, I don't like Hugh Jackman because he's too tall.
Right.
So you do like them to be comic accurate, or as comic accurate as possible.
That's true. Yes.
And it's not that I like them comic inaccurate, but I do think you got to think about the medium you're working towards. Anyway, thank you for the question. Schreikler says, what's a comic outside the big two that you'd like to see melded into or crossed over with either DC or Marvel?
I'd love to see something is killing the children.
That was exactly my thought.
Get out of my brain.
Oh, my God. Justin's away, and suddenly we're mind melding, Pete. Yeah, I mean, I think that would work great. And like teaming up with an Elsa Bloodstone or something like that seems like
I thought you were going
perfect
to
fit.
say Elsa from Frozen.
Sure, I don't think that's really a Marvel comic, but I mean, as we've established on the show, comics and movies are basically the same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing. Let's see. Hartford, 1988. I didn't want to bring this up because I didn't want to get too much into the Snyder of it all, but he says, I think an example of your point, Alex, would be Snyder's Watchmen. Yes, absolutely. Them trying to just do the comic on screen didn't work. Could have been worse. I saw somebody post a bit of Sam Hamm's screenplay for Watchmen, which never got done, where I think one of the lines was like, oh my God, it's the goddamn Watchmen, or something like that. I was like, all right, I don't know.
Great name though, Sam Hamm.
Yeah, Sam Hamm, great. He wrote Batman.
Sam Hamm.
Batman.
Batman.
We do have fun here.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Yikes.
Yeah. Mostly the rest of the discussion here. Oh, Dark Sage says, I will admit my bitterness is a lot from Carnage and Sony's Venom. Granted, it's not Disney's fault on that one, but give me a comic book, Maximum Carnage as a movie. Ooh. It is, I will say, just on this bed, to agree a little bit, and we've talked about this before, it's crazy that they got Woody Harrelson to play Cletus Cassidy. Perfect casting, and it was so wrong. Like, it did not work for the most part at all, which is bonkers. Pete, over to you.
Yeah, bonkers.
Great. Thanks, Pete. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the support.
Hey, no problem, I was reading Nat's comments. I apologize. So
yeah, no problem. Take your time. Read whatever you want. Don't participate in the podcast conversation or anything.
Why
like
it's
that.
happening live? Yeah,
no that's cool. Then we can loop in your dialogue later. Right?
Yeah, thanks. I'll just kind of. And then you can.
I like cheese. Stray Bullet says, "What do you hope the DCU's Batman will be like?" This has been a heated discussion online for sure. What do you think, Pete? I mean, to give you two choices to start with, but you don't have to choose these. The big argument online has been just put Robert Pattinson's Batman in the DCU versus if you're gonna do it, have it be like blue and gray, cheery, hello, old chum, Batman type thing, or possibly somewhere in between.
What? What do you mean? I guess I'm lost on what this question is talking about. Like,
okay, you know the character Batman, he has like pointy ears.
Yeah, very familiar. Seen all the movies, read all the comics. Great. Now what?
Okay, so we're good. And the DCU, that is the DC Cinematic Universe,
right?
Which includes DC characters and will have a character named Batman. You're with me so far, right?
Still with you.
Okay, great. All right, this isn't confusing. So they haven't cast that Batman yet. Some people have said
Pattinson's out, is what you're saying?
Oh my God. Okay, this is the point where I lost you. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. So there was this movie called The Batman that is directed by Matt Reeves. That is not part of the DCU. That is considered a Elseworld story, which is set in its own universe and not connected to Superman, Creature Commandos, Peacemaker, Lantern, Supergirl, etc. It's its own thing. A lot of people have been like, you already have Robert Pattinson, just make him the Batman of the DCU and let's move forward from there. However, since they announced the DCU, they have been developing a Batman Brave and the Bold movie, which would have a different Batman cast in the role, running concurrently with Robert Pattinson's Batman. The Batman in the DCU would have a Damian Wayne that he'd work with, so it's a Batman and Son thing going on, and that's the idea there. So at this point, they don't have a script necessarily. It hasn't been greenlit. They have not cast the role, no matter what the internet's saying. There is going to be a Batman in the DCU, but the question is, with all this setup, should they just move ahead and make Robert Pattinson the Batman of the DCU, or should they have a different Batman, and if so, what should that Batman be like?
Well, I'll tell you what, an absolute Batman would be a lot of fun. You know what I mean?
Well, who would that be? Alan Ritchson, who everybody wants for Batman?
Oh, that would be...
Super large dude? Is there anybody larger?
Yeah, can we get larger, please? Yeah, that would be better. Yeah, who's larger than that? Because he's kind of as large as they go. But yeah, it would be cooler to get larger for sure. But I also just like, that's interesting. That's very interesting. I didn't know there was a Batman hole in the Batman DCU there, so that's interesting. I also...
It's sort of shaped like this, but it has pointy ears.
No, I got the Bat part. Thank you for keep going back to that. I appreciate that. That's not where you lost me. I wasn't like Bat and Man. That doesn't add up. But I also makes me think, well, that means we should always be doing animated Batman, because that's my favorite Batman, because you know.
Well, I mean, to that point, in
Rest
Creature
in peace,
Commandos,
Kevin Conroy, my Batman.
in Creature Commandos, when they flash back to Gotham City, it wasn't Kevin Conroy's voice, but it was definitely the animated Batman, the lightning crash in the background. I believe they even had like musical stings from Batman, the animated series, playing in that episode. So it seems like that might be the direction they want to go in, though obviously, sadly, not Kevin Conroy. It would be somebody else. Yeah. My thing is like, they'll make it work, however, but I don't need two live action Batmans at the same time. I think based on like me talking to you, a person who you've heard me say this same thing several times, and this is not a slam but you by any means, the regular person on the street will be like, what's going on? Is this gonna, I don't understand. I just saw the Batman Part 2, but he seems to be a different person here. Did Robert Pattinson, so too confusing. Just make it Robert Pattinson. And for anybody who's like, oh, he's too grim and gritty, it would never work with David Cornsweat's Superman. Here's the secret about Hollywood. They will figure out a way to make it work. That's all. Like, if that is the plan,
yeah,
if
but
they're
that's
like,
not also true. They don't always make it work.
it may not
it's
work,
awful.
but they will figure out a way to jam those worlds together. Same as everybody's like, I don't know how all of these different characters are going to work together in Avengers: Infinity War, and then they did.
I thought you were going to say like, here's the insider. These two are famously an odd couple, so making him grittier and making Superman, you know what I mean? That's a fun.
And that's fine too. Like, if you have Robert Pattinson come in, everybody also is like, oh, he's not old enough to have a kid. And sure, that's correct. But also they can be like, it's later in the timeline, and everybody will just kind of go with it. Or alternately, it is going to be later in the timeline because they have no Batman movie in development. So it's going to be a couple of years down the road anyway. Or they don't go the Batman and Son route because that clearly is not working for whatever reason, and they're not moving forward on it.
I think you got to get a different Batman and just be like, yeah, welcome to nerddom, man. You got to get in this to understand what's going on. If you're confused, get in. You know what I mean?
Wait, are you saying they should cast another actor as Batman?
Yeah.
Have two Batmans at the same time?
That's right.
Here's what I'm going to throw out at you. At that point, why not three Batmans?
Oh, now we're talking.
Right?
Let's have a Bat party.
Yeah. Bat Fett. I don't know. I didn't have anything good there. Hartford, 1988. If you could put together a comic for either DC or Marvel, who would be your team?
Ooh, man. I got ideas.
Okay, hit me up. I would love to hear those ideas out loud on our podcast.
Great. So we go, it's Greg Pak and Brian Azzarello co-writing a book with Bachelot. And it's dark but funny. You know what I mean? We got both the Greg Pak and the Brian Azzarello there. You know what I mean?
My problem is I'm only thinking about existing teams. Like, my first thought was, ooh, what if Mark Russell and Mike Allred did something, but they've already done 2 books together and they're doing a third. So that's not helpful.
What? My first idea is something that's already happened a bunch.
What if Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely finally did a comic book together? That would be crazy.
Oh, man.
God, I don't know. How about who do I like?
Yeah, who do you like?
Jason Aaron and Gabriel Rodriguez. I don't think they've ever done anything together.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. I feel like that would be a perfect fit. And I don't think they've worked together. So there you go. That's my answer.
Nice
we got a bunch more things on the same topic we were just talking about with the DCU. Now, Townsend says, to Alex's point, are Elseworlds movies too confusing to the general public, at least if paired with connected continuity? Personally, I would say yes, if there are 2 Batmans. But if you're doing something like, I don't know, Sergeant Rock, it's probably fine if it's not connected to the DCU and it's just a Sergeant Rock movie, and that's okay.
Well, I also think people will be able to follow along, but just they might not get all the layers of the stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, but there's less layers, right? Because the idea with the Elseworlds is they don't connect to the DCU, so you're not going to see any of the Justice Gang show up. David's Cornsweat's not going to fly by. The Daily Planet actors are not going to be there or anything like that.
Well, that just doesn't sound fun at all.
It's okay. Not everything needs to be interconnected, Pete. Do we think the Batman Part 2 will be the last installment? Wait a couple of years for the new Batman. Pete, you seem to have some hot takes here, so what do you think?
Yep.
Great. I know you love talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
I think they will do Batman Part 2. I'm sure the plan is to try to do a Batman Part 3 and finish off a trilogy. But the entertainment industry changes constantly, so I think it's really hard to say what's going to happen in 7 years necessarily. But I think, I would hope if they have a story they want to tell over 3 movies, they do. And I also think because the Penguin was so good, we talked about this when we were talking about the Penguin on the Sons of a Gun podcast. I would love to see them do Batman Part 2 and then another TV series and then Batman Part 3.
Ooh, yeah, with a different villain or go
different villain again?
Ooh,
yeah,
interesting.
Sophia Falcone, baby.
Oh man.
All right, I think that is it for our audience questions. Folks, we're going to move on with our next section, which is trivia. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Pete LePage.
All right, this is the part we give back to you, the lovely audience. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. It's an opportunity for you to win $25 free to Midtown Comics Online. Because if you had $25, you would want some comics. Am I right? I mean, come on. So all we need is a little first-hand up action, and
we do have Stray Bullet saying, I want to take the Secret Justin quiz. Is that anything?
Wow. Oh, man, yeah, he just did 2 steps in one. And because I'm not up in my nerd cave, I had to bring down the plans.
Oh, my God, you had to bring down a pice of paper from upstairs?
A bunch of pieces of paper,
Are your hands
Alex.
okay?
They're okay. So let me just first... Okay, so... If we should have gone, I would like to take the secret quiz that asks for the password. Then he says Justin. But because last time we messed up when he said I'd like to take the secret quiz, and I didn't have any of the paperwork. So apologies to Stray Bullies. But yes, Justin is the correct password. So next one. Here we go. Now I got to see page 2. So hang on, I got to find this here.
What are you doing? What is this?
This is page 2 here.
Oh, my God. What? Okay. Is that did you get that at an Arby's or something?
An Arby's?
I don't know. Sorry. You stole the check off the waitress at the Arby's and that's what you're writing
what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
You were one of those sit-down table service Arby's, right?
I run into Arby's and I steal checks, bro. That's how I make my living.
Oh, sweet.
Okay, here we go. Question number 1. In the Justin Secret Quiz, who is the best / funniest member of the Tyler family? Is it A, Pip or Jasper, rest in peace.
Oh,
B,
either dog.
Justin's brother, or C, Justin's wife.
Great. And just to clarify of the first part, Pip, his dog, did sadly pass away. Jasper, his other dog, is still alive. So when you said
Right.
Pip or Jasper, rest in peace, not both of his dogs. The first dog, rest in
Just
peace.
the first dog. Yeah, yes. He's
Great.
He's
Bullet
going
says
with Justin's brother. Correct.
Justin's
well
brother?
done.
Funnier
Yeah.
than the dog?
Oh, my God.
50% of which are dead?
Oh, what, dude?
Well, it's just, hard to be funny that way.
Okay. Wow, Alex, I don't know what you kind of are working through with your hatreds of dogs, but we're on to question number 2. Congratulations. The question number 2, what bothers you least about JT Sizz? Is it A, his tight t-shirts, B, his hat tilted askew a tad, or C, his weird obsession with getting inside characters' heads?
So the thing that's interesting about this is it's not a quiz, first of all, but second of all, it's mostly about knowing what you think about Justin, not any sort of actual facts about Justin.
Oh, how dare you! First,
is the answer A?
Yes, that is correct.
There you go. Then I think that approves my little theory there.
Well, hold on, sir, because my opinion of Justin is facts. Okay, I'm a very honest person, and so I tend to believe that I deal in facts. So
Yes. Now, real quick, do you need to turn over to your Outback Steakhouse pad for the next question?
I was looking because I was like, man, only 2 questions. I guess this was a short quiz, but how long do you want to keep this going? I guess was my thought. So congratulations, Stray Bullies.
It was a 2-question trivia quiz?
That's well, part of it's getting past the password and figuring out all the secrets, along the way. But yeah,
I feel crazy.
yeah, and I will follow up with Stray Bullets about his prize because it is a choose your own adventure prize situation. So very excited to see what he's going to pick.
Great. We did have, by the way, I believe not to. Now I'm doing this to myself, but Nat Townsend says, I want to take the secret Punisher quiz. Is that anything?
No, it is not. Unfortunately, that is over.
Cool. But we do have, I believe, I'm sorry if I missed anybody else, but Brooklyn, Stray Bullet's son, would like to do trivia.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, this is exciting. We have a star wanting to do trivia. Okay, here we go. Today's trivia is about Daredevil Cold Day in Hell. Good time to have a kid on. And a small nod to the legend, Michael Madsen, R.I.P. Mr. Blonde. Please listen to all 3 options before making your selection. Here we go. Question number 1. Brooklyn, I hope you're ready. Where does Cold Day in Hell take place? Is it A, the future, B, if your first name was Baxter, I would be worried, or C, Jerry Stockman?
Oh, I get it. That's a TMNT joke.
That's right.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Now we just wait.
Yes.
Now
it does look like
we
there's a
just-
little disagreement to the comments about who's doing it, but Brooklyn says A.
A is correct. All right, here we go. Question. I hope people are okay in the comments there. I hope we didn't cause any problems. Question number 2. One of the other twists to this amazing Daredevil series is blank. Is it A, the fact that he is powerless, B, yo macho, you packing tobacco, C, Ralph Tobackin?
I believe he was the star of the Tobacco Kid. Is that?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
And the new one, The Legends of the Tobacco Kid, which I'm excited to see.
It's supposed to be very bad. Yeah.
Oh, what? Really?
Yeah, it also came out months ago. A is the answer. A.
A is correct. Here we go. Last one. Question number 3. Alex, don't you love all these quizzes back to back?
That's great. I wish we could do more.
Oh, me too. Me too. Here we go. Last one. Who writes this amazing comic? Is it A, Charles Soule, B, hey, yo, you a fan of the Rocky movies? Or C, Mickey Trainer?
Mickey was the name of the trader, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
correct. You put that together all by yourself.
No, but I feel like, He wouldn't be Mickey Trainer. He'd be like a Mickey trainer would be somebody who trains Mickey. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't make sense.
Oh, okay.
A? Is it A?
A is correct.
Wow.
Brooklyn has won $25 free to Midtown Comics, man. I hope all that money doesn't go to his head.
Yeah, but shoot us an email or have your parents shoot us an email and we will get you that gift card. And Pete, what is the secret movie you were teeing up?
Oh, of course, everybody knows that I'm talking about the 1984 classic, The Natural.
That is a classic. And we have some new classics that are coming out tomorrow in comic book shops. So, Pete, what are you looking forward to that's hitting stores?
This is a great stack that I'm looking forward to talking a lot of comics about. Birds of Prey number 24, just amazing. All new Venom number 9, surprise for me, but yeah, that's also, I'm very excited to talk about that. Storm number 11, and of course Daredevil Cold Day in Hell number 3. It's a work of art. It's just masterful on many levels.
Now,
excited.
Of course, I'll remind Pete that the comics haven't come out, so we don't know what's in them yet. But
exactly, I'm just going by what we've seen before. You know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. That all tracks. Archie versus Minor Threats, number 1, is coming out from Dark Horse Comics and Archie Comics. Very weird idea for a crossover between these two universes, so I'm curious to see how they do it. Also very excited about Cheetah and Cheshire Robbed the Justice League, number 1. Ooh. That comes from Greg Rucka and Nicola Scott, and that team does not miss. And of course, like we mentioned before, Ancestral Recall, number 1 is a great one to check out.
Yes, bro.
And lots of other things. I won't mention too many more of them or any more of them, but you can check out all of those in our Stack podcast that comes out Wednesday, 9 a.m., both in the Stack feed and the Comic Book Club feed. And folks, that is it for this week's show. Woo-hoo. First of all, we want to thank Jordan Clark for coming on to talk about Ancestral Recall. As mentioned a million times, check that out tomorrow. Next week on the show, Brian Gonsar is going to be here to talk about Oni Press's Dracula's Brunch Club. And Mike Del Mundo from X-Men, Elektra, and Thor is going to be here to talk about the art of Mike Del Mundo. Also, Comic Book Club News, our Podcast Awards-nominated daily podcast. Check that out Monday through Friday. Marvel Vision, our Marvel podcast. We just talked about Eyes of Wakanda on there, so you can check out our recap of that. Sons of a Gun, our DC podcast. We just talked about Superman recently, so you can check that out. Patreon.com/Comic Book Club. To support this show and all the shows we do, you can subscribe on Apple, Android, Spotify, or the app of your choice. ComicBookClubLive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, we'll see you at the Comic Book Club.
Happy belated birthday, Brooklyn.
They sit on crappy couches and they let the secrets leak. And occasionally they let their special guest speak. So grab your written hammer, don't be late for it, 'cause their girlfriends can barely tolerate it. Comic Book Club, Comic Book Club, Comic Book
I think Pete was just giving some hints about the quizzes for anybody watching the video, but you'll just have to check that out next time.